Hello, in this video I want to give a quick introduction to the constraints features in the Rhino WIP. So in order to start using the constraints, you're going to want to bring up the constraints panel, and you can do this by coming up to the panels menu and then selecting the constraints option. And once you do that, the constraints menu will appear. Mine's docked here on the right side. I'm just going to resize it a little bit. And so you'll notice at the top of the constraints panel there's a few buttons, and these are how you interact with the constraints. So the first button I want to bring your attention to is the Create Constraint Sketch. So in the Rhino WIP, constraints are done in these structures known as sketches. And so a sketch is a set of dimensions, a set of constraints, and a set of objects. So I'm going to go ahead and click this Constraint Sketch button. And what it's going to do is prompt me for a bunch of objects to add to the sketch. So I'm going to go ahead and select these 3 lines and hit Enter. So you notice over here the sketch is now added to the constraints panel, and it's got the 3 different line curves shown here, as well as the dimensions and constraints header. You also notice that the curves are now drawn with a halo around them, and this annotates that these curves are actually in the constraint system. So the next thing you can do is start adding constraints to your objects. So you can do that from this plus button here. So it'll drop down and show all the different constraints that can be created. So I'm going to go ahead and create a parallel constraint, and now it prompts us for an object. So I want to make these 3 lines parallel, so I'm going to go ahead and select all 3 and then enter when I'm done. And now you notice that the 3 lines have been made parallel. You also see the parallel constraint is listed underneath the constraints item in the constraints panel within the sketch, and when you go ahead and click on it, it'll show you some more information about the constraints in this lower section here.